Hello, welcome to Healing with Ketamine. I'm your host, Dr. Cassius Drake, and we're happy to welcome you back to our podcast where we discuss our work at the Drake Center involving ketamine-assisted therapy, psychedelics, creativity, virtual reality, mindfulness, and everything that it takes to be a whole and complete human being. We have two special guests with us here today, a lovely couple, Anthony and Lindsay. Anthony went through our process and has had results that he's going to share with us. And his wife, Lindsay, is a therapist herself who's been amazing support with him, and will share her insights with that as well. So it's sure to be an inspiring conversation. So welcome to our podcast. Thanks for coming and being with us this morning. So Anthony, you came to us to go through our program, and were willing to come and share your insights with us. So why don't you tell us how you ended up at the Drake Center?
Well, I been dealing with depression for pretty much my whole life, as far as I can remember. I did talk therapy and stuff like that, and I didn't think it was super effective. Tried a little bit of everything, and I think Lindsay put me onto it. Mm-hmm. She said, hey, there's a bunch of data surrounding ketamine therapy and how useful it could be. You want to try it? And I said, sure.
Okay. And then how'd you end up at the Drake Center?
I called a couple places, and it seemed like your guys' protocol was like the most well-rounded, best one. Mm-hmm. A lot of the other places seemed like they didn't really offer all the services that you guys did, so I said, yeah, I'll go with you.
Yeah. So the whole package of the integration and all the holistic support was something that really appealed to you. So what was your experience like?
It's been pretty great so far. Mm-hmm. I think I've had a pretty noticeable change in my mood and everything. I guess I don't notice it as much, but Lindsay kind of notices it more. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so far so good.
Yeah. What do you think has been the biggest positive impact for you that you got from it?
I think it helped me out with my mindset and seeing things differently. Mm-hmm. I remember we spoke at one point about how I always try to fix my problems, mm-hmm. and how there's certain problems that you can't fix, but you can just accept it and move on from it and go forward. And I never really looked at it that way. Uh-huh.
So that helped you change your perspective on things?
Yeah, definitely. I have a different perspective on a lot of things now, I think.
So tell us what that's like. So I know there's people who are watching us who'd be like, okay, well, that's interesting. What's that like? How did the ketamine actually help you? What was that experience like?
I think for a while I was really pessimistic and negative all the time. I'd wake up in a bad mood. I'd go to work and something would bother me, and mm-hmm. I'd be in a bad mood all day. I would just think negatively about a lot of things, whether that's like myself or my work or just like my life in general. Mm-hmm. So after this, I feel like my perspective kind of shifted, and I'm more okay with things going wrong. If I mess something up at work, I'm like, all right, I can move on from this. I'm not angry at myself for it. Mm-hmm.
So you find you're reacting differently to yourself, and holding yourself sort of in a more positive way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. So, when we talked about you coming on and sharing your story with us, you said, I felt like it was an important thing for me to do. And why do you think that that's an important thing for you to do?
Well, we're planning on having kids pretty soon, and I want to be a father, and I want to be able to be there for my kids when they're born. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be in a bad mood all the time and come home from work and not be able to be the best father and husband that I can be. And I said, we were ready to have kids, and I said, I don't know if I'm ready because my mood is just terrible all the time. Mm-hmm. So I kind of just said, I need to fix this before we add more people to the world.
Dare I say, do you feel ready now?
I think so, yeah. I think we are. I think I'm more ready than she is now.
We flipped.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So on that vein, Lindsay was an incredible support for you through this process, and even primarily suggested that you do it. How was it for you having her support?
It was pretty good. I liked it.
Yeah.
I feel like mental health problems are kind of hard to do on your own. Mm-hmm. And even when you go to therapy, you're sitting in a room with someone that you don't know, and you're talking about really deep personal problems. And I think she knows me better than anyone. Mm-hmm. So having her there is kind of nice.
Yeah.
She can help explain things that I'm trying to say that I don't know how to say because she knows me better than anyone. Mm-hmm. Having the support there is nice. It feels more comfortable when you have someone in the room with you that you know.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. So you found that having her there, and she would sit next to you during the sessions and be that support for you, and that anchor really that really got you through it. So Lindsay, you come to this with a professional perspective. Mm-hmm. As a therapist, and so why don't you tell us about what was your experience of this as a therapist coming into it, what you thought was going to happen to what you actually saw happen?
Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect. I am somebody who, I love the data. I love the mm-hmm. research. And so that was, of course, very appealing that this is so well researched for so many people. But coming in, it still felt a little bit new and a little bit uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. After the first session, Anthony was like night and day already. Everything was different. And I had explained it to you, progress that I sometimes see can take months or years or a very, very long time to happen, mm-hmm. happened overnight.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. It is something that I think is not talked about enough. I think a lot of people don't know that this is even an option. Mm-hmm. And I think that is really important, that healing does not have to exist in one way or in one capacity. We can look at a lot of different options, and this is one I would encourage people to consider.
Absolutely. So what were some of the things that really stuck out for you in this process, where you're like, wow, this is really working, some of the objective things that you may have noticed?
I have noticed, session 1 already, that ability for Anthony to accept what is, accept himself, accept the situation, and he has held that with him moving forward. There was a situation the other day where he had a really difficult day. I don't remember if it was at work or somewhere else, and I was driving home kind of expecting him to be in a bad mood. Previously, it would have really mm-hmm. taken over his day. And I walked in the door, and he was like, hey, good to see you. Like, here's what I'm working on. Me and the dogs are playing, and happy, and mm-hmm. had left it there.
Yeah.
So this ability not only to accept what is and not let it consume him, but to also believe in himself more. Uh-huh. And when he's doing hard things, rather than being hard on himself, he's like, I'll figure it out. No big deal. I've got this.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Is that all true?
It's very true.
Yeah. And, how do you feel about the sustainability of this for yourself? Because many people ask the question, how long is this sustainable? Does this last? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know, because I'm still in the whole mm-hmm. process of it, but I don't know if it's really about sustainability. It seems like my mindset is changed.
Yes.
So I have new skills to move forward. A lot of it's just like skill building and learning. And now that I have these skills, maybe like this perception is different. Maybe that in the future I'll be able to look back and say, okay, these are the changes I made. This is what I learned. This is how I can apply it to my life.
That's great. So this isn't something that's just artificially lifting your mood. You're fundamentally thinking differently.
Yeah. I feel like the mood lift is like a couple days after the treatment, but mm-hmm. after that I go back to normal, but my my mindset is different.
Okay, so your assessment of things has changed. Your perception of things has changed. Right.
Yeah.
And so, as we talk about in our work in the Way of the Butterfly, and we talk about, caterpillar consciousness and butterfly consciousness, caterpillar consciousness being the way you think and relate and be with the world prior to starting this process. And then through the process of the treatments and the integration, you evolve and emerge as that butterfly into a different way of relating with the world. And that you keep. And I think that's an important thing to realize in this process versus some other approaches is you can get long-lasting change. You can change your relationship with yourself and life, and continue to see it that way and operate from that way, which in our view increases your, would you agree, resiliency to life. Things still happen, right? But that thing which would have sucked you into the pit for weeks or months before, now there's a different relationship with it. I don't have to go there, right? I can make a different choice in the moment. So we do a lot of things at the Drake Center other than just give you the ketamine. So we also we talk about creativity, we talk about mindfulness, we talk about immersive therapies and virtual reality. How were those things impactful for you?
It's kind of strange. I feel like I lost my creativity for a while. I've always been really creative. My brain just works that way. I felt like I lost it for a while, and then I painted something from one of my sessions, and in the beginning I thought it was like, this isn't gonna work. I'm very doubtful on things, and then I got in the office and I started painting, and I started having fun with it, and I was like, all right. And then Lindsay always talks about being creative and using the other side of your brain kind of helps your brain as a whole. So I was like, all right, let me go into this and try to be a little open-minded. And by the end, I was having a great time. I didn't want to stop painting.
Excellent.
I feel like it opened up a part of my brain that I haven't used in a long time. And then even like now, I try to be more creative with just stuff I do at work. Like I'm a carpenter, so there's creative solutions to everything.
Exactly. Have you found that showing up in your work? Or are you seeing things different, doing different things, or more inspired?
Yeah, definitely. There was a few things around the house that, like a couple little, renovation tasks that I've been putting off because I was like, I don't know how to go about this. I don't know the right way to do it. And I kind of just winged it and got creative with it, and it worked out fine.
Awesome. Are you using any of the mindfulness tools and meditation tools? Have you found that? What was your relationship with that before and after your experience?
I guess I understand how mindfulness and meditation works. I know the benefits, but I never really used it before. Now I find myself doing it a lot more. I went to the gym the other day. I was doing sparring, kickboxing and stuff.
Okay.
And in between every round, I was so tired I couldn't focus. So I would just close my eyes, take some deep belly breaths, and just focus on what I was doing. And then I kind of just got back in the zone, even though I was like physically exhausted and tired. My brain was sharp. So that was super useful.
Yeah. So these are the things, the tools that support that sustainability moving forward. So Lindsay, what's your impression of that, of the other side of what we do, other than the ketamine, of the paradigm and the mindfulness and creativity?
Yeah, I think that the integration piece, I would be curious how effective the ketamine could be long-term without the integration. Because yes, you can have these realizations in the moment, but if you don't take that with you, if you don't practice it, if you don't try to create new neural pathways, it's not going to happen. You're not going to see those results. But I feel like Anthony now has this skill set to pull from that he didn't have before, because maybe he didn't believe in it, maybe it didn't work in the same capacity, but now he can not only take the realizations, but okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. How can I get back into my body? How can I slow down a little bit more? I think that is probably really vital to the whole experience if people want to see big shifts in how they think.
Wonderful. Thank you. So how would you say people come into this type of work, therapy, treatments for depression, and have their expectations based on what they've seen on how well that works or doesn't work, both personally and professionally. So what do you think about healing now? What does that mean now on the other side of this?
It's a hard question.
What's your experience of it? What does it mean to you?
I feel like healing it's complicated because you're not really healing. I don't know. I'm kind of stumbling over my words.
You're doing just fine.
I don't know if healing is something that can happen without yourself, I guess. You can't expect therapy to work if you're not 100% in. You can't really expect changes to happen if you're not making those changes yourself.
Yeah.
So I feel like you have to be a lot more open to it and a lot more willing to make the changes and do the effort.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's kind of work.
It is, yes.
That you can't just expect to go to therapy, talk about your problems, or go somewhere and just have it fixed right away. It's effort on both sides.
Yes.
It's a process in itself. It's a lot of work, but
It's good work.
it's good work.
It's good work if you can get it.
It's
right?
good results.
Yeah, if you do the work. And thank you for bringing that up. And this isn't, it's not a passive process, right? It does require your engagement and your participation. But it also puts like a tailwind behind you that just makes that so much better. And speaking of tailwinds, just letting this conversation flow naturally, you had a tremendous tailwind behind you with Lindsay being your support. How would you say that just vague question, how did that help you? I know it did. I'm just curious in your opinion.
Lindsay's always been like my number one support.
Mm-hmm.
So going into therapy before and going into like all of these other treatments and everything I've tried, she was always like, hey, you should try this, you should do that, you should do this. And I was always very doubtful about everything. And then she'll show me data and say, this works.
Mm-hmm.
Going into the ketamine therapy, I was a little nervous at first. I felt like it wasn't going to work. I was very doubtful. I was like, all right, this is going to work, and then I'm going to get over it. I'm going to be back in the same mood.
Uh-huh.
But she kind of helped me realize, like, these are changes that can last if you put in the effort and build the skills and all that. Yeah, she's super helpful.
Yeah.
And then having her there, too, like, I'm always nervous and a little uncomfortable every single time I do one of the ketamine sessions. But having her there makes a big difference, just knowing that, like, hey, she's there, so if anything happens, she can take care of me when I can't take care of myself.
Mm-hmm. So you guys have a solid partnership that produces a greater sum than just the two parts, right? So wonderful. So anything else? What would you like to share, Lindsay, for people you'd like people to know about this process, personally or professionally?
Yeah, I think that a lot of times people think that healing needs to be this one-size-fits-all process. And healing, as you're talking about it, this whole process for me has made me really rethink how I approach healing in sessions. I think a lot of people come to therapy hoping to, let's get rid of it. Let's get rid of the things that have happened. I don't want to think about it. I don't want that to be a part of my story.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I would love to help you get rid of symptoms, but I too have had this new perspective of healing is more accepting what is, and how can we get you to that point of it not consuming you and moving forward from that. So I think it has helped me as a clinician, and hopefully will help my clients too with that journey. But I think more than that, knowing that if therapy isn't the thing for you, that's okay. If medication isn't working for you, that's okay. There are so many other options out there that deserve to be explored, that you can in 4 or 5 weeks have tremendous results from. And I think breaking that stigma is really important.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. One final thing. So, Anthony, when we were talking about this, and you said, if I could tell on, you said, I really didn't want to do this, but I felt like I needed to, that it was important that I do that. Why was it important that you did this today?
I think mental health stuff is just hard to talk about. A lot of people hide their emotions, don't want to talk about them. Depression is just hard in itself to talk about. No one wants to just tell people, oh, I'm sad, I'm not in a good mood, I'm depressed, I'm not happy. That's really not a topic most people want to talk about.
Right.
And I think sharing my story, I guess, would help show some people that, like, this is possible, that there's changes you can make, there's stuff that can work, and that you're not stuck in the same place. I think there's like a big stigma around mental health. A lot of men don't talk about their own mental health.
Thanks for going there. That was my next question. I was going to ask you, as a man doing this work, I think many men will look at emotional work, mental wellness, as sort of admitting weakness, or that weakens you, or you lose your edge. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't really see it as a weakness. I think ignoring something's a little more weaker. Like, if you have the courage to go after something and accept it for what it is, like, yeah, I'm depressed. I have depression. I have a diagnosis. I've tried to fix it. I've done everything I can. If you're not going out and seeking every way to kind of solve that problem, you're probably more, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I guess
you're doing great. Where are you going with it? You're doing great.
I feel like there's more weakness in just ignoring your problems and going day to day and just not going into your own brain and trying to figure out what's going on.
It's certainly not a cowardly act to undergo a ketamine treatment, right?
I think it's probably one of the toughest things I've ever done is to look into myself and say, hey, these are problems that I need to fix.
Yes.
Usually I fix external things.
Yes.
It's a lot easier to do that than it is to look into yourself and accept I have these things going on and I need to make an effort to change that.
Yeah. And, some of those are admitting there's wounds, or admitting there's a place that needs some help. And still at the same time, in this process, allowing yourself to get that help. And then to find yourself, as you said, ready to say, I'm ready to hold being a father. I'm ready to hold that commitment, and be the man I'd like to be for my family. Fair enough? Fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say as sort of a final wrap-up, to men who might be on the fence about doing this type of work?
I think it's a lot harder to go through life with problems than it would be to make an attempt. Like, the first step of trying to fix a mental health problem is probably the hardest. But living with these problems and living with mental health issues is significantly harder than just making that first step. I don't think there's any harm in trying everything you can do to fix a problem. And I feel like ketamine for me was me stepping out and trying something different to try to fix a problem in myself, that I kind of got to a point where I was like, I don't know what else to do to fix this.
Yeah. Step of trudging right into yourself and figuring out what's in there. And as I say, that's a brave act. And I think on the other side of it, it's been my experience that you end up more powerful, and more able to live your purpose on why you're here on earth, and if that's, I'm ready to be a father, or I'm ready to bring more creativity to my work, or I'm ready to be more present for my partner, or whatever may come from not carrying all that weight of sadness around, then yeah, that's positive to me. So thank you so much for being here. Lindsay, as the as the spouse of someone with challenges, what do you have to say to other partners of people with challenges?
Yeah, mental health, mental illness is all-consuming, and it doesn't only impact the person who is struggling, but the people who love them, who so badly want them to be able to see themselves in the way that the rest of the world can see them. And I think as a spouse of somebody who has struggled, or for spouses who are with somebody who is struggling, be patient, be gentle. It is sometimes hard to see when somebody is trying their best, but it is really important to give that grace and to have that trust that together we'll figure it out. We'll find the things. We'll try it all. We'll weed through it. And I think that if somebody who is struggling has someone who's willing to do it all with them, it makes it a whole lot less heavy.
Thank you so much. I 100% agree with that. All right. Well, that's a good place to end. So thank you so much for being with us today. It's really been a wonderful conversation and a pleasure to hear your stories. And thank you for your willingness to share that with our audience. I'm sure it's going to be a help for somebody.
Thanks for having us.
My pleasure. Well, that's going to wrap us up for this month for Healing with Ketamine. Again, as always, thank you for your time and attention, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you very much.